Commentary on Zechariah chapter 7, KJV. Zechariah 7 offers a rich tapestry of spiritual, ethical, and theological instruction. This chapter, part of the prophet's broader ministry to the post-exilic community of Judah, addresses questions about religious observance and true worship. It transitions from a specific inquiry about fasting to profound reflections on justice, mercy, and obedience to God. Here's a detailed exploration of its themes and messages. Verses 1-3, a question about fasting. And it came to pass in the 4th year of King Darius, that the word of the Lord came unto Zechariah. v.1. The chapter begins with a historical marker, situating this oracle in 518 BC, 2 years after the rebuilding of the temple began. A delegation arrives at the house of the Lord to seek divine guidance on whether to continue observing fasts commemorating the destruction of the temple and the Babylonian exile. This inquiry reflects the people's desire to align their practices with their current situation, particularly now that the temple's reconstruction was underway. The question itself reveals a tension between ritual observance and the relevance of those rituals in a changing context. Verses 4-7, God's challenge to ritualistic worship. When ye fasted and mourned in the 5th and 7th month, even those 70 years, did ye at all fast unto me, even to me. v.5. Through Zechariah, God responds not with a direct yes or no but by challenging the sincerity and purpose of their fasting. The critique suggests that their observances were self-serving rather than God-honoring. The rhetorical question emphasizes the importance of intent over ritual. This section recalls the prophetic tradition, example Isaiah 58, Amos 5, that condemns empty religiosity. True worship, God implies, is not about formalism but a heartfelt relationship with Him, reflected in ethical living. Verses 8-10, a call to justice and mercy. Execute true judgment, and shew mercy and compassions every man to his brother. v.9. God shifts the focus from fasting to the ethical demands of covenant life. The emphasis on justice, mercy, and compassion reflects the heart of God's law and covenant expectations. Oppression, deceit, and neglect of the vulnerable widows, orphans, strangers, and the poor are highlighted as failures that provoke divine judgment. This passage underscores that outward religiosity is meaningless without social righteousness. It aligns with other prophetic calls for justice, example Micah 6:8, and reinforces the inseparability of love for God and love for neighbor. Verses 11-14, a warning from history. But they refused to hearken, and pulled away the shoulder, and stopped their ears. v.11. Here, Zechariah recounts the stubbornness of their ancestors, who rejected God's instructions and the words of the prophets. Their rebellion led to the catastrophic consequences of exile and the destruction of the land. This historical reflection serves as a warning: persistent disobedience results in judgment. The vivid imagery of pulling away the shoulder and stopping ears highlights their active resistance to God's call. The desolation of the land contrasts starkly with the flourishing life God intended for His people. Theological and practical themes. 1. Ritual versus relationship. The chapter critiques hollow rituals and redirects the community to examine their motives. Worship practices must be an expression of genuine devotion and not ends in themselves. 2. Ethics as true worship. Justice, mercy, and compassion are central to God's expectations. This theme transcends time and culture, calling believers to embody God's character in their treatment of others. 3. The danger of hard-heartedness. Zechariah warns against the hardness of heart that characterized their forebears. Obedience to God requires humility and responsiveness to His word. 4. The interplay of past and present. By drawing on history, the chapter connects past failures to present responsibilities, urging the community to learn from previous mistakes. Relevance for today. Zechariah 7 resonates deeply with modern readers. It challenges superficial religiosity and invites a re-evaluation of worship practices. The chapter reminds us that true spirituality integrates worship with justice and compassion. In an era often marked by external displays of piety, this passage calls for an inward transformation that manifests in ethical action and love for others. In sum, Zechariah 7 bridges the gap between ancient and contemporary faith, presenting a timeless message: God values obedience, integrity, and compassion above mere ritual.